In 1953, your TV was showing I Love Lucy, Bozo the Clown, American Bandstand, The Roy Rogers Show, and more. Then, on October 1st, WATE signed on as East Tennessee's first television station.
We're blessed to be a part of this community for 70 years. An incredible time in our history.
Thank you for watching and for making us your choice for news for 7 decades.
From thousands of sunny days to the blizzard of 93, we've been here when you need us.
Cheers to 70 years, and thank you for making memories with the WATE 6 on Your Side team.
Team 6 Eyewitness News. More than just the day's major stories. It's the entire team's combined crime.
So here's to the future. Here's to the amazing place we all call home. For everything East Tennessee, turn to WATE 6 on Your Side.
November 1st is Operation Honor Guard's Day of Giving. We're collecting money to help local units with military funerals. For more information, go to WATE.com.
The most accurate weather team in Knoxville is always ready for what's next. The Covenant School shooting, a deadly attack on Middle Tennessee.
There's no one in this state whose heart was not ripped apart.
What is going on in our country that this keeps happening?
Calls for action.
This has to stop. It has to end. We have to do something to make it better.
State leaders respond.
Separate those who are a danger to themselves or to others from access to weapon, and protect the Second Amendment rights of Tennesseans at the same time.
Consensus, hard to find on some issues.
The only way to protect what you love from evil is by equal or greater force.
When you have someone who's willing to die and kill other people,
suspect down, suspect down.
You cannot stop them.
But lawmakers agree schools need investments in security.
Nothing is more important than making sure that Tennessee students and teachers return home from school safely every day.
Tonight, in the middle of the fall semester, WATE 6 on Your Side focuses on one school system, Anderson County Schools, meeting the people in charge of teaching, supporting, and protecting your children.
Good evening, I'm Bo Williams.
And I'm Alison Smith. Thanks for joining us as we spend the next hour in conversation with people who spend each day thinking about and working for children in Anderson County.
Their tasks, tough ones to be sure, come with challenges and strategies as unique as the young people they serve. Still, the broader goals, trends, and structures mirror those of school districts and communities across our state and across our country.
We all want kids to be safe, to feel safe, and have access to all the resources they need to learn and to grow from their first school bell till they throw their graduation caps.
In a moment, we'll sit down with school administrators and law enforcement to discuss at length the core issues affecting schools and children. First, though, let's get an overview of what's been on the minds of Tennesseans when it comes to education and especially school safety.
911, what is the address of your emergency? Is that at Covenant School?
Yes. We think we hear gunshots.
Think you hear gunshots? Okay.
Please hurry, I'm hearing you.
They're coming, they're coming.
A deranged person with a weapon, determined to kill students or staff members, attacking a school, leaving bodies in their wake. It didn't start with Covenant or Columbine, for that matter. In the nearly quarter century since April 20th, 1999, when 12 students and a teacher were murdered at Columbine High School in Colorado, something has changed as much in the American psyche as it has in the history books. Children and teachers know massacres happen.
We all receive alerts that there was an active shooting. We turned off all the lights, barricaded the door.
And when they do, fears are confirmed that they could fall victim.
I have grown up all my life being scared of getting shot in school.
Schools hold drills like they would for a fire or a tornado.
Keep going that way. What's your son look like?
Law enforcement trains too. Tremendous sums of money are spent hardening schools with electric locks, cameras, fences. But it keeps happening. Warning signs go unheeded. Evidence is lacking to take action. Defense measures fail. A door is left unlocked. Police don't have the right keys. An SRO balks at facing a gunman alone.
Hit that stair. Hit the stairs. Go.
And even when police move swiftly, fearlessly confronting a shooter, as they did at Covenant, kids still die.
And literally, I'm in tears, and I look at these kids, and they believe that their classmate is going to heaven.
All right, so the question is, what do we do? Well, that's why we are here today. We're going to answer a number of questions that a lot of you may have concerning your schools, your kids, their safety, and again, that's why we're here at Anderson County High School.
Yeah, sitting in this library, we're going to be speaking to Dr. Tim Parrott, Director of Schools. We also have Greg Deal, who is the Assistant Director of Schools and Security.
Also joining us today, Wade Haney, Director of Technology, Ben Downs, Principal of Anderson County High School, Sheriff Russell Barker with Anderson County Sheriff's Department, and Chief Deputy Brian Galloway here as well to answer a lot of the questions that we have, that you have chimed in, that you have sent us, and that we have formulated. So hopefully we'll answer a lot of your questions today.
Okay, and so we're going to start with Dr. Parrott. So first question, we don't want to give away any details that are going to put anyone at any risk, but what is the school safety plan that you have in place for Anderson County Schools?
I think in a nutshell, we would say that safety is our first priority. Everything we do in Anderson County, we have to make sure our students are safe, our staff is safe, and I think we do a great job of that, trying to make sure that anything that comes about, how we can do things safer. We have a great relationship with our Sheriff's Office, and any type of technology that we can use. It comes with a grain of salt, though. You know, you have to, everything else, you still have to have class every day. You have to do all of those things. So I think as we look at safety, we have to look at it through the lens of, I'm a parent, I dropped my child off at the school. How do I know my child's going to come home that next day? And so we have town hall meetings. We do what's called a meet the professional with our students, and we talk about student safety with them. All of those things help. We have, again, with our Sheriff's Office, we have an SRO in every school. Our campuses are, for the most part, locked down. You have to have either a badge to get in, or you have to come into the office and make sure that you can show your credentials and things like that.
Principal Downs, what do you say to them, obviously dropping their kids off? What do you tell them?
My job and my team's job is to make sure that the student returns safe at the end of the day. Just the things that we have in place here at Anderson County High School with locked doors, the key card system, multiple sheriff's office or officers on campus, and how quickly we can lock our campus down in the event of emergency is something that's very refreshing as well.
Every school has an emergency operations plan. We have a system-wide emergency operations plan. With the assistance of the Sheriff's Department, we have developed active shooter plans, and all those plans are shared with all law enforcement, the county, each of the municipalities, and all first responders, the ambulance department. We are required to have a certain number of trainings every year, a certain number of fire drills. We have to have tornado drills. One of the new things that we're doing this year that was part of the governor's new safety bill was we have to have an incident command drill. We have online safety drills, which Mr. Haney, I'll let him follow up exactly what that looks like. But we have our teachers basically spend probably 2 days, 2 days doing online safety drills, everything from bloodborne pathogens to how to respond to an active shooter, different things like that. Our SROs every year do multiple trainings, active shooter trainings. The other thing is the day-to-day cooperation that we have with the Sheriff's Department. They're on the 4th floor, we're on the 5th floor. And there's probably not a day that goes by that I don't have a conversation with Chief Galloway, Assistant Chief Sharp, or Sergeant Garrison, or Director McBroom. We have a very good relationship, and we share information with each other about the safety of our schools.
And I want to go to you, Sheriff, because we've heard the Sheriff's Department, we've heard SROs mentioned. As the years go by, trying to think back to when we were kids, but nowadays there has to be that close-knit interaction between you and the school system to keep things safe and to keep it so that people don't have to worry. It's a different world, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that we've seen just over the course of time is that as our culture changes and this phenomenon of school shootings, and what at least feels like a higher rate, then it just seems like it keeps growing. One of the things that we had to do, and we're very fortunate in Anderson County, and I think this is really the success of what we have here, and it's the partnership, and it's the lines of communication. Without a doubt, we honestly try to get out in front of everything together, and allowing us to have SROs on campus, particularly in every school, that in and of itself has created just an incredible avenue for us to be communicating back and forth between principals, the teachers, through our SROs, and getting it to us at the sheriff's office as part of the command staff. One of the things I can tell you is training is critical. So it just so happens that I was in Nashville, about 4 miles away from the last shooting, and we were there for a public information officer training, and it was absolutely incredible to be that close and knowing what was happening down the road as we prepared to run through mock scenarios of various incidents.
We're going to take a break in a second, but I do want to ask you real quick, because you mentioned the Covenant shooting. What was that like then, being there when this happened, not that far away, but you're in this session?
So it really changed the intensity of the class, because we were running through scenarios and we were taking real life situations that happened in the past, and we were going to present them as if we were that agency, and here we were 4 miles from an active shooting. And of course, that became a huge topic of discussion, and very on point, too, for the training we were receiving. And it really just, it was as close to real life as you could get without it happening at your school and in your community.
They can actually just press one button, the teacher can, and notify the appropriate authorities. We have tied in every school security camera. It's like they have an eye in the sky from the 911 center.
Welcome back. Our conversation with Anderson County Schools and the Anderson County Sheriff's Department continues.
Okay, so we're going to start with Sheriff Barker. Sheriff Barker, let's talk about other resources that you need, that you have, that you don't have enough, maybe quantity or quality.
So an SRO is, in essence, no different than any other deputy we have, other than they're a little more specialized unit. Our SRO unit has now become our largest unit that we have in the entire Sheriff's Department. There's just more bodies there than we have on any shift or any given specialty unit. One of the things that we still have to do is provide, duty equipment, weapons. Everything we outfit a patrolman with, we have to do the same for our SROs. And in addition to that, we need cars, fuel, and so all of that is the same. One of the things that I've learned through communicating through the Sheriff's Association with some of our other sheriffs, they don't typically have the support that we see here in Anderson County from the school system. It's not so much it doesn't appear to be the team approach as it is with us. So any of that stuff, even training, we have leaned back and forth on each other for training, whether it be something we put on for in-service or for the teachers, or them helping us get to the training that our people need to keep the schools safe.
As far as the tech side of it, I know in the break we were talking about Sarah. I don't know, Mr. Haney, if you want to kind of give us a little bit of background on that, just another way that you bring in the Sheriff's Department, you have the administrators, everybody's kind of on the same page, it seems like.
Sarah is a software that our teachers log into every morning, and when they log in, it notifies where they're at, and then they have an option of different buttons. And we also look at medical emergencies just like we look at active shooters and things. So most of the time you're going to see those medical emergencies happen quite more frequently than intruders. And so with those buttons, they can actually just press one button, the teacher can, and notify the appropriate authorities on what the need is. Those notifications come to the school administration. They come to the district administration, as well as the Sheriff's Department and or 911. We've also, with 911, we have tied in every school security camera. We're up to almost 700 cameras throughout our district. And so our 911 center has immediate activations on our cameras, and they can look, and regardless of what that 911 notification's about, they can look immediately and see what's going on as a bird's eye view.
Well, the teachers in the schools who are using this system, what has their reaction been? Has this given them a little more reassurance? Because I would think it would speed up that communication.
I think so. They don't have to worry about running to the phone and dialing that 911. They know as soon as they press that button that school administration, as well as, again, all the folks that need to be notified are going to be notified immediately. And so we've had a very good response with that. And again, with the 911 being able to view those cameras, we have a good working relationship with them, and they have really appreciated that because they can see what's happening when they get those calls. So that it's like they have an eye in the sky from the 911 center.
If we get these threats, each school has a threat assessment team that involves a mental health person, a teacher that's familiar with the child, an administrator, and an SRO, and they can sit down and they can determine whether it's a viable threat or whether it's just something that we can just talk to the parents about and say, hey, you need to tell your child he doesn't need to be doing this anymore or something, or get the person the help that they need. So we've used the technology with the Sheriff's Department in a lot of different ways.
Sheriff, your thoughts on this? I mean, obviously, we've already seen it in action. So
the app started out as just a way to make sure we're communicating with our community, and as it developed, it made sense that we add a SRO and a school component to it. One of the really neat things that I'm really proud of is that we can go onto that app, or anyone can, and they can see who the SRO is assigned to that school and have their numbers and emails to directly communicate with them. The tip line is really good for us. People are using that, and we appreciate it because, lots of times folks they want to remain anonymous, or they don't want to be involved, and this allows them to do that. And I think it's critical for the safety that we have these ways, because people are taking advantage of it.
How do you help them come back to school the next day?
I think the most important thing is just keeping everything normal.
We used to never see these things, right? We have to take them serious. We have to err on the side of caution.
Welcome back as we continue our school security conversation with those decision makers in Anderson County.
This school year, we've heard law enforcement, we've heard school administrators coming out, really just not here, but all across East Tennessee and really all across the country, urging students, think before you act sometimes. We have seen there have been threats that have been, whether it's been through the internet or called into schools. There's no joking around here when something like this takes place. Sheriff, I'm going to go back to you to start this off. This is something that we're seeing more and more of, whether you want to call it a copycat or just someone maybe didn't get their homework done the night before and wants to get a day off from school. But obviously, each one is treated the same, I'm sure, when these threats come in.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We have to take them serious. We have to err on the side of caution and make sure we're approaching it as if it's the real thing. Why there's an increase in this, I honestly don't know, because it is like we used to never see these things, right? In the old days, you would see maybe a bomb threat called into a courthouse because somebody was trying to get out of court, right? But you never saw them in the schools, and I think it's become such a hot topic, and more times than not, our kids who are doing this, I don't think they understand the gravity of what they're doing and the seriousness of it. And I can't, and honestly, with technology, it's really hard to get away with anymore. Yeah. So I really don't know why they do it. One we had within probably 60 minutes, we had the person who perpetrated it in custody. So, I mean, and there's just with cell phones and all the technology that's out there, it's just a really hard crime to get away with. And I really think that some of our youthful offenders erroneously believe it's harmless. But it really strikes terror, not only in some of the students, but parents.
So how do you distinguish if this, is someone who is dangerous or if this is a kid who's trying to pull a prank?
Yeah, you don't know that until the investigation's concluded. Once you identify your suspect, you go through the normal process, just like you would any other case. You're collecting evidence. In this case, it's heavy with digital evidence, cell phone data, electronic data, and then you begin kind of your old gumshoe type work where you're actually doing interviews. And then that's where you kind of where the rubber meets the road, so to speak, where you find out, is it someone who didn't understand what they were doing or didn't realize what a big deal it was, or is it a legitimate threat?
Principal Downs, I know the sheriff just kind of mentioned we were seeing more of this. As a principal of a good-sized high school, is this something that obviously may keep you up at night or thinking about? I mean, obviously these are things that we hope won't happen, but we do see it more and more.
Absolutely, yeah, and unfortunately it has happened a few times, and going back to what Mr. Deal talked about with the threat assessment, obviously, like the sheriff said, we take all these very seriously. We get that threat assessment team and determine where it's coming from, if it has any meat to it, but it's taken very seriously. And the sheriff's office is our first call when we get one of those. My SRO is right in the middle of the investigation from the get-go. But yeah, there's definitely some sleepless nights there when you get a report in the middle of the night that somebody's showing up to do X, Y, or Z. And this creates chaos because nobody, just the things that have been in the news as of late, you don't want that happening on your campus. So you're going to take all measures necessary to make sure everyone's safe.
Well, earlier this year, I believe you all responded to a fake gun threat, correct, in May. And so I think in an interview you had said your response was textbook. So what does that mean? How do you guys decide what the next steps are and when you're going to put a school on lockdown?
So we are pretty liberal on that. Like I said earlier, anytime there's a threat, particularly to our kids, we make sure that we err on the side of caution. So we will use a combination of hard lockdowns and soft lockdowns depending on what we have. If the threat is not directly on campus, but it's in the area, that's when you would do like a soft lockdown, where you want to make sure that the school's aware. You may have some activity within a couple miles of the school, and the last thing we want is for it to bleed over onto a campus. So we use that. In addition to that, the hard lockdowns is when it's on campus, right? So in this particular case, 911 received some calls, and it was different than any that I'm aware of for Anderson County. You could hear kids in the background as opposed to just a single voice and a threat. Our SROs really sprang into action, and patrol moved quickly. Actually, Corporal Brittany Seiler was instrumental in that by quickly getting hold of technology and using some of those tools we have at our disposal to locate a signal that the number came from. And once we got to the school in question, it was apparent that there was no threat because it was virtually empty. So as we tracked that down, we located them within reasonable accuracy of their house. And of course, after that, full confessions.
Obviously, the fallout from something like this also is the mental health side of that. You see your kids coming through here, as do other principals at their schools. How do you help them come back to school the next day or feel comfortable, or is there reassurance, or are there people on staff that they can, I know there's counselors, how do you help them get back into a routine so they're not disrupted in what they're trying to accomplish here, which is obviously to go to school, get good grades, and move on to the next level?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is just keeping everything normal, normal. I sit out front in the mornings. I'm the first face they see most mornings. So I try to do that, give them fist bumps, welcome them, be that personality that, makes them feel welcome. But also, we're blessed here at Anderson County. We have, at Anderson County High School specifically, we have 4 counselors full-time. We also have mental health therapists that are here throughout the day. So we're blessed with those types of things that we can use as resources in the event of these situations. But our staff just does a really good job of comforting those kids in those moments, making sure they know they're going to be safe. whether it's greeting them when they show up or greeting them at the door of the class. That's kind of some of the things that we do, just making them feel, extra special and that everything's going to be okay.
And I think it really hit home to our parents how that somebody could do this because a lot of people were scared. These kids were doing it as a joke. And it really caused chaos.
And welcome back. We're continuing our conversation with Anderson County Schools and the Anderson County Sheriff's Department.
Okay, and we want to start with Superintendent Dr. Parrott. And Dr. Parrott, we want to talk about that response to the school threats that you all received in May. This was an unusual situation.
It was. As you know, it was probably about a month after the shooting in Nashville. And it was the end of the day, so it was very concerning because students are not in class. Some of them are out walking. As some of our schools, we still have a lot of students that walk home and everything like that. So I think that when it came in, the response time of the deputies was amazing. And I think, without not going into a lot of detail, it wasn't a drill. It was real to them. And I think that they understood how important it was. And I think it really hit home to our parents how that somebody could do this because a lot of people were scared. Our teachers were scared. We had one teacher that, she took care of everything, but her thing was, how am I going to make sure my students are safe? And I think that these kids were doing it as a joke. And it really caused chaos, and it really put almost 3 schools on total panic. And I think that's what I wish that the students and the parents of people could get that in their head, how important it is, because when you have 1,000 students on this campus, I just want to have some fun. Well, it's not fun because people can get hurt and people can die from those situations. And I will say this is, in hindsight, the one thing we have done, the Sheriff Barker and Mr. Deal and everything, after that happened, they had a meeting and he said, okay, what can we do different? How can we make that? And man, when you say, hey, all of these things went right, here's what we might need, just this little tweak and things like that. And I think those are what makes me be able to sleep at nights thinking, hey, we have a lot of people on staff that really and truly know what they're doing a whole lot more than I do, and the plans. I say we worked the plan, and the plan worked. But again, it still puts parents on edge. It puts them. We had to call a lot of parents, and they say, if I send my kid to school the next day, will they be safe? And we say, listen, you can't tell what happened to these people that did that, but I can tell you they're no longer around. They're not here. And I think that these parents with social media, they want to know that. It's kind of ironic when we put a school on a soft lockdown. Somebody passes out in the hallway. There's a flood, or it's just anything a soft lockdown can be. It's not an intruder. Within 45 seconds to a minute, my phone rings because our director of communication has already got an email or a text or a call from one of the local radio stations or from a parent or somebody like that. So we have to be very transparent and say, hey, here's what it is. Used to, we would say, well, let's look into it, but we can't do that anymore. Yeah. We have to say, here's what we know at this point. And that's what Sheriff Barker and his crew did when they did the first press conference I read after that. Here's what we know at this point. Your children will be safe tomorrow. And I think that's the biggest thing they want to hear.
With social media and all these different platforms, communication is instant now. And that was one of the things we hoped with an app. Our school system, I have a daughter that's a senior in Anderson County Schools, and they're great about sending notifications to the parents. But if you have grandparents, aunts, and other loved ones that may not receive those, that it was part of our thing too with the app when we started looking at it as a tool for the schools as well as us, we can push information out to everyone that may not be getting the direct ones from the school system.
With cyberbullying, it's 24/7. It's on every social media platform. It's through email. It's through every possible electronic method, and these kids just can't get away from that.
And welcome back. Well, you know, sometimes we hear about bullying in these conversations, especially online these days. We hear about this more and more involving our kids, our students. But there are ways to obviously tackle that, because a lot of parents always chime in about what's happening to my kid. They can't study. They're being bullied. How can I help? But there are resources out there that can help them.
Well, I think a lot of parents ask, what should I do
Right.
if my kid is being bullied? So, Mr. Haney, we're going to start with you. How can you guarantee that someone is going to listen, that there is going to be some kind of action taken?
That's a great question. We take bullying very serious. And, you know, to be honest, there's probably not a person around any of these tables that hasn't been bullied at some point in their life. However, back in the day, we would deal with that, and then when we would go home, we didn't have to deal with it anymore. You may have it the next day to be bullied again, but there was a time period that you didn't have that. With cyberbullying, it's 24/7. It's on every social media platform. It's through email. It's through every possible electronic method, and these kids just can't get away from that. And so we have a product called Gaggle. It's gaggle.net. And when we went to be a one-to-one district about 8 years ago, one of the things that we had to put in place was, how do we keep kids safe, whether they're on our campus or whether they're at home or at their grandparents' house. You know, they're going to take our device home with them. How do we ensure that we don't help to perpetuate that bullying with the devices we send home? And so Gaggle, it monitors their email, it monitors their Google Drive, their assignments. Really everything that child does with their account on our device is monitored. And with it being monitored, if it is considered a low-level threat, then there is an email sent out to school administration, to district administration, and then we can deal with it. And typically that's dealt with within a couple of hours. If the threat is considered to be imminent, a student's writing a suicide note, for instance, then we get a phone call from Gaggle. It doesn't matter if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, we get those phone calls. I've actually received those phone calls. At that point, we find their address. I'll give Sheriff Barker great credit for that. We call them, they send a deputy out immediately, and then they do a well check on that student. If help is needed, then they get mobile crisis to that student. And we have had that happen, and honestly, I believe Gaggle saves lives. It also gives us the tools in the schools to get the right guidance counselor with them if it's a low-level bullying offense, whether it be the person doing it or the child being bullied. And so it gives us real quick actions that we can take. And typically anymore, kids communicate through digital methods. And so as soon as it goes through anything that is with our accounts or with our devices, we've got it caught.
That makes it easier for you all now, right? Because there's evidence, where maybe back in the day you're like, he said, she said, but now there's a digital trail.
There is a digital trail, and every day we receive those emails. Because there's an incident somewhere pretty much every day. Our principals do a great job. They reply back with what's been done. The person is taking care of that. So from a district level, we know that same day that this is being handled by the right people. And then parents will be notified, and they can be assured that we are dealing with it in a professional manner to make sure their kids feel safe and are safe.
Typically, the principal is the first line of defense, and he responds. I get a copy of their response. Like, for example, if Mr. Downs gets a suicide threat, he will respond to that and put something online for me to see. Assistant Principal Freeman has resolved this issue. There's nothing going on, or we're contacting mental health professionals, or we're transporting this child, calling in mobile crisis or something, so I know what's going on and how it's being handled.
So back to Mr. Haney, how does P3 work?
P3 is an app-based product that every kid has access to. There's posters on most every walls of our schools, and it is an anonymous alerting piece for bullying or even just simple things that they have a need for. And so they can go through the app, they do fill that information out, and then that information goes to the local principal based on the phone number that they text.
Okay, if you've got a parent sitting here, or there are parents watching this, obviously, what do you tell them then? What can they do from that? Is it basically sitting down talking to your child, or being? I mean, what do parents need to do at this point?
For
bullying, whether you notice, is it just noticing your child's habits? I mean, as a parent sitting at home, are there things they need to be thinking about, looking for, listening for?
Yeah, I think obviously monitoring the device. That device is serious business, you know. And again, we have some things in place, but getting in their business a little bit, that's key. You know, I wouldn't trust your kid, you know, with any social media or anything. I mean, they need to know what their kids are looking at, and typing and texting and sending and Snapchatting and all those things. When it comes to bullying, for me as a principal to school, you know, the hardest thing for me is, I mean, I've got 1,000 kids here, is having that communication of what's going on. You know, a lot of times we get situations that parents want us to handle, but we have no clue anything's going on. You know, maybe it hasn't went through Gaggle, or it hasn't gone through the P3 app, or we haven't been called or anything. We gotta have an open line communication, because I'm not walking with their son or daughter side by side all day, every day. So communicating with the staff to make sure, you know, we're aware of these situations. And then we have, just through experience, we have techniques that we use, because a lot of times people don't want to do that because they're worried about the fallback of snitching, or whatever the key word is, retaliation. But we have techniques and ways that we do things that we keep the victim, you know, out of harm's way, and can get them help, and make sure that we get an end to those things.
The law requires us to, if a parent makes an accusation of bullying at a school, the law requires us to do an investigation. One of the worst things you can do is deliberate indifference, blow somebody off. You have to take people seriously. Not every reported incident turns out to be bullying. It could be just a fight or a disagreement between two people. But we, as educational professionals, we have an obligation to investigate every time someone makes an accusation of it, and we do.
Our students know what's going on. Listen, they know where the problems are. They know what's happening. They just have to communicate to us and say, hey, here's how I can make it better.
Hey, welcome back. We are focusing on keeping schools safe as we continue our roundtable discussion with Anderson County law enforcement and school leadership.
Yeah, we were just talking about bullying. We kind of want to pick up from there. Obviously, social media is so prevalent right now. Internet, they have the ability to text on your phone. Sheriff, I want to shift it over to you, as well as Chief Deputy. Either one wants to jump in, but as a member of law enforcement, what do you tell parents? I mean, there still has to be that talk, first of all, with your children. But on the same token, could it be said that sometimes the kids are the first line of defense too? To see something, say something. If you hear something, obviously report it. You know, sometimes they can see something going on with maybe a classmate that maybe someone else hasn't seen. So really, there's two lines there of parents as well as the kids themselves that can be a huge help.
Yeah, they should encourage their students, their children, to take up for their friends and classmates when they see something going on. At least report it to the teachers if they don't feel comfortable. But they need to make sure their kids are comfortable coming to them with problems that's going on in the schools, because we have to be made aware. We can't resolve any issues without being made aware. So they really need to work on that relationship, that their children are comfortable reporting any kind of problem to them, as well as the school staff, administrators, counselors, SROs. Most of our SROs have a very unique relationship with the students in their building, whether it be the elementary school kids with theirs, all the way up to the high school kids. It's just, you know, they develop that friendship, and they get to where they're comfortable talking to them.
Well, and I wonder, what is your approach when it's cyberbullying, when a threat is made online, but nothing is happening in person? How do you handle the situation, right? Nothing has been said physically or done physically, and everything is online, but the cyberbullying and the threats, how do you handle that?
So that is where you get into digital evidence.
Okay.
Through some of the stuff that the schools have, lots of that, particularly if they're using their device, is at our fingertips. Because if they're doing it from a school-issued device, we have it. But let's say they're not. Let's say they're using another brother's phone number or something, or an older sibling's phone. One of the things that we do is we approach it as if we were dealing with an adult out in the community who's allegedly committed a crime. We can go through subpoenas, grand jury subpoenas. We can do letters of preservation with cell phone carriers and internet providers. So we just start from the beginning and just kind of work our way through it. And of course, you gather the information to try to figure out why this person would be doing it, and is it reasonable that it is this, that it is them, and you just plow through it. And kind of again earlier, like I said earlier, old gumshoe work there.
Got to dig a little bit and get in there. Dr. Parrott, you oversee a lot of schools, a lot of kids, a lot of families. As we're getting toward the end here, what do you tell them tonight? For peace of mind, moving forward, and hopefully having a great rest of the school year.
I think here's the thing is that overall our community, they trust us. They trust us to do a good job. They expect us to do a good job. They expect their children, when they drop them off in the morning, that they pick them up in the afternoon. They expect them to have a good learning environment and things like that. And all of those things that we do each and every day have to build on that. Mm-hmm. And I think that at the end of the day, they're just kids. Mm-hmm. And they're going to mess up. And they're going to do stupid things. And we have to figure out how to put those things in place that help them make those better decisions and help them to be successful at the end. When they graduate, our motto is, we're about every student every day. We want to develop, support every student every day. And that's what we do. Every decision in Anderson County we make what's best for every student every day. And I think people understand that. And then at the end, if they have a problem, they always text my wife, and they Facebook my wife. No. And then she says, what did you do today? And I say, well, I have to fix that. But, yeah. But I think, I'm 62 years old. I've been in this community all my life. I've grew up with their parents, their grandparents, and everything. And I think that's what is great about Anderson County schools and Anderson County as a district. As everybody wants what's best for the students. And at the end of the day, when you do that, sometimes we're going to miss the mark, but it doesn't mean we don't want to try again harder the next day. And I think with Mr. Downs, with every principal we have, I can truly say they're about students. And when you do that, when you walk into any school, and that's the thing too, is our schools are open. Now, COVID, shut a lot of things down, but our schools are open. Our parents go in and they eat lunch with them. They go on field trips with them. If they have parent-teacher nights and everything. Last night, I think there was an open house here. And I think we have to be transparent. We have to be, there's some things we can't tell people, but they have to know in the back of their mind that I trust these people with my children. I think it comes down to communication. Mm-hmm. We all have to work together and for one goal, and that one goal is to keep our students safe. And it doesn't matter how big, how small you think something is. If you think there's a problem, tell somebody. And I think that in Anderson County, we have built a culture to where our students feel safe with going to the SROs. They love their SROs. I mean, if you see on days when we celebrate our staff, they don't see them as a threat. They see them as somebody that's a friend. They see the principals as a friend, and that's what we have to do. Parents, if you know there's something going on, let us know about it. And our students, Mr. Downs can add to this, but our students know what's going on. Listen, they know where the problems are. They know what's happening. They just have to communicate to us and say, hey, here's how I can make it better.
Well, you talk about how important the trust is, right? The open line of communication, that community support, and you hit on it earlier. How does that deter violence from happening in your district?
If people will tell us what's going on, we can take the necessary steps to prevent it from going to the next step. Because like I said, I can promise the people of this community, Dr. Parrott will not allow any of us to blow anything off. We will not display deliberate indifference. If we hear something, we're going to look into it.
Really, it comes down to the kids the majority of the time.
Yeah,
they know what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure it's like that at a lot of schools, not just my school, but you know, 9 of 10 things I deal with is because a kid has told me about a situation, or they've told a parent and the parent has called me, and that's what we got to have. And schools, all schools have to have, is that communication, that culture that Mr. Deal spoke on. That you know, you communicate with the proper people so that we can head this off before it comes to such a big matter, and having that culture and that communication is huge. Yeah.
Before we leave you, we need to say special thanks to our panel, Sheriff Russell Barker, Director of Schools, Dr. Tim Parrott, and Assistant Director of Schools, Greg Deal.
Thanks also to Chief Deputy Brian Galloway, Director of Technology Wade Haney, Anderson County High School Principal Ben Downs, and thank you for sharing your evening with us. Of course, we're going to continue covering this issue, and we always want to hear from you. Reach out at WATE.com or through social media when you want to know more about your child's school, or maybe just to brag.
There you go. From WATE 6 on your side. Good night.